Liberty Nation. Truth is making a comeback.
Hello and welcome to Liberty Nation's LNTV. I'm your host, Mark Angelides, and today I'm joined by Jeff Charles to discuss the Unite the Right 2 rally in Washington, D.C. Now, by anyone's standards, this is a contentious gathering that has, as far as I can see, very little positive upside. So we're going to take a look at the actors involved, the motivations, and perhaps try and make a little sense of it all. Thanks for being here, Jeff.
Great to be here.
So tell me, now this rally, it took place on the anniversary of the Charlottesville rally that resulted in, well, not just one dead girl, but from my side of the pond, it really seemed to draw some battle lines that tried to group regular folk on the political right in with the Nazis. What's your take on this?
Yeah, so you know what's really interesting about this, Mark, is that groups like this, like the KKK, neo-Nazis, other racist hate groups, they have held events like this for decades. Before Trump even came on the stage, they would stage rallies and marches in California and all across the nation. And the media would cover them, but they would only give them a slight mention. Now that President Trump is in office, now they hone in and cover these events with a greater level of intensity than they have previously. So the motivation behind that is obvious, right? They want to lump in all Trump supporters and mainstream conservatives with these hate groups. It's part of their campaign to basically make everybody on the right look like they're either racist or okay with racist.
Is it working?
No, I don't think so. I think that they've been doing this for decades. They've been crying racism over and over and over again. They called Bush racist. They called John McCain racist. They called Mitt Romney racist. Now they're calling Trump racist. Anybody who's in the middle, who's more on the independent persuasion, and they're more open to Trump or open to Democrats, that strategy has lost a lot of its effectiveness because they've overused it and they call anybody racist that basically they don't like. So it has a certain level of potency, but it's not nearly as effective as it has been in the past.
Yeah, I remember in the old days when if somebody called you a racist, it was, but now it's, it really has, say, lost the potency. I mean, so with that in mind, what are the organizers of this thing? What are they hoping to achieve?
So the people that belong to these groups and participate in these types of events, I mean, there's a lot of different factors that figure into this. One is a sense of community. A lot of these people are disaffected people who may not have a sense of community. It's the same reason why people might join gangs. They want a sense of community. They want a sense of shared beliefs. But what's even more deeper than that is really identity politics. People usually think that identity politics exists just on the left. No, it's on the far, far right as well. And it's comes from a sense of victimhood. These people feel like they're ostracized from society. You'll hear them throw around the term white genocide. They believe that they are being victimized by the left, by minorities, by everybody outside of themselves. So that type of identity politics on the right, on the far right, manifests itself in groups like the neo-Nazis or the KKK. So I think that's really what's going on here.
A quick odd question here. What would you say is the far left equivalent, or isn't there one?
Oh yeah, the far left equivalent is it's funny because the people who espouse identity politics on the right are considered fringe. They're not part of the mainstream. On the left, it is part of the mainstream. Like you have groups like Black Lives Matter, and most of these people mean well. They're not necessarily evil people. But identity politics and victimhood is very prevalent on the left. It's part of their political dogma. It's part of their whole messaging, victimhood. You guys are victims because of white men. Everybody's out to get you. So you have to vote for us so that we can protect you from these evil white people. So when it comes to the left, identity politics and this type of victimhood is not on the fringe. It's part of the core of their makeup.
Yeah, I with groups like Black Lives Matter, for example, I certainly wouldn't equate them in any way with the neo-Nazis. But it's an entirely different animal. But it is one that you correctly point out. They're both born out of the idea that they're victims. and that's a pretty sad place to be for anybody, I think.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and people on the right are kind of guilty of what the media is doing here. They'll make it sound like Black Lives Matter is the black version of the KKK. They're not a terrorist group. They haven't historically been a terrorist group. There are some bad actors within that group, but most of these are people who we just disagree with.
Yeah.
But still, their whole movement is based on identity politics and victimhood. So I think we should approach it as such.
Okay. So the way you mentioned earlier about the press and about how it's so hyped up here, I may be off base on this. I'm pretty sure I am. But to me, it appeared that many in the media were almost hoping for some kind of violent conflict. Am I wrong here, or was it just the way I read it? What do you think?
Yeah, so with that, I mean, I think if you go back to Dana Lash's speech that she gave after the Parkland High School shooting, and she gave a speech and she called out the media saying that they love the violence, but she was very quick to clarify and say that they may not want people to die. They don't like people dying, but they like what it does for their ratings. And I think the same situation applies here. Nobody in the media wants to see people die. I don't believe that. The majority of them don't. But if it happens, never let a good crisis go to waste. This is another opportunity to lump conservatives in with these fringe elements. Instead of being honest about it and acknowledging that most conservatives condemn these people, instead, they want to turn it into, well, this is part of the conservative movement. This is who they are now. It's dishonest, but they're also standing on the graves of people who do get killed in this type of violence to further their political agenda.
Yeah, you talk about the actors who are involved in this stuff, but who is behind it? This specific rally? Because I noticed that Richard Spencer, he's steered clear of this whole thing, as have a lot of the other white supremacists. They're kind of just not getting involved with this and not really advertising much in the media, social media platforms and whatnot. So who is behind the curtain?
Well, so far, I mean, the one that puts
we know you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the face of it is a man named Jason Kessler. He organized the last rally, and he organized this one as well. I haven't been able to figure out who's behind him, if there is anybody behind him. I know that they get a lot of their funding from donations via PayPal, which PayPal has gotten a little bit of trouble over that. But I don't know if there is some big figure behind this. I think that this is just an organization. This is a movement that has always been in America. I mean, to be frank, it's always been there. So I think that just groups like this can still materialize in rallies such as this. So right now it's Jason Kessler. Next time it might be somebody else. But I think what's important is that these people are not a normal, integral part of American society. They are on the sidelines. They have been ostracized, and they will continue to stay that way regardless of what the media wants us to believe.
Yeah, it seems a shame that these kind of things spring up and that they do get so much coverage. It goes back to what you're saying, that the media is almost trying to hype them up into something bigger than they are, and it's a real shame because it's what is it? One guy with a couple of hundred of his friends on Facebook, a couple of people who have some similar beliefs, and they now become something on the national stage, whereas 10 years ago, who would have noticed? You know, I certainly wouldn't have heard about it.
Exactly.
It's a pity. But Jeff, last question: who wins here?
I don't know that anybody wins. I mean, in a sense, it's reaffirmed that this group is not part of the mainstream. These people have no power. And I think in the end, nobody really wins, but nobody really loses. I mean, because the media isn't going to win because they're not going to be able to successfully lump in conservatives with these people. They're going to try. Trump actually tweeted yesterday condemning racism in all of its forms. So they can't really even use it against him. They're trying to criticize him for it, but they failed. So, I mean, I guess if I was going to pick a winner, I would say it's the American public who has overall condemned groups such as these and not allowed them to become an important part of our culture.
Good answer, Jeff. Thank you. Really, it's always a pleasure to have you on board. Thanks for being here.
Yep, thanks for having me.
And thank you to you at home. If you enjoyed the video, do us a favor and press the subscribe button down below. It's a big help. And remember, if you haven't done it yet, you can stay on top of everything that's happening with the Liberty Nation app. Crap! I was trying to remember it as opposed to read it. Alright, I'll start that part again. Look calm. And thanks to you at home. If you enjoyed the video, do us a favor and press the subscribe button down below. It's a big help. And remember, if you haven't done it yet, you can stay on top of everything that's happening with the Liberty Nation app. Our new and improved app, it gives you access to all of our articles, podcasts, radio and TV shows, wherever and whenever. It's a simple download from the Play Store or the App Store. It's all you need to keep you in the know wherever you go. Take care of yourselves, be safe, and thanks for watching.
Visit us at libertynation.com.